to spend some time on is security. And this is something that we talked about quite a bit about a year ago. And there's a big opportunity with virtualization to transform the way that we do security today. It's very challenging around setup and deployment and operational overhead. It costs you quite a bit to maintain those agents and make sure that things are laid out in your data center appropriately. So we see server security at this layer as being able to improve on a few things. One is that everything that is running within your virtual data center operating system is automatically protected. There is no case where you forget to install an agent in the virtual machine that is doing the security function. It's running to the side and looking at every virtual machine that's there. The VMsafe set of APIs is something we announced and have been giving to our partners for about a year now. And as we come forward with vSphere, this will be in a production case where our partners can in turn ship these offerings that are there. Another thing is, just like that fault-tolerant case, one thing that we can do with here is give you more efficiency around your security deployments. In a typical world, you have to over-provision security appliances as an example. You're putting them at the end and knowing that everything comes to them, you have to make sure it can handle your peak loads. In this world, you're using a virtual machine to have your security protection, and you're able to focus it on specifically the virtual machines that you care about. So you're right-sizing your security investment in this case. So what's really great, you'll see a number of demonstrations of our partners that are building on top of VMsafe. What's very exciting is that they cover a lot of different use cases with the end goal of taking a policy assigned to your virtual machine around what level of security, what its network communication ports are, maybe what protocols are in place, and then implementing the security to maintain them. And the existing demonstrations that we've seen so far cover VPN, intrusion protection, virus detection, anti-rootkit. So lots of different opportunities here that I think we'll be able to take advantage of as vSphere moves forward. We too are taking advantage of the VMsafe APIs, and we've just announced something called vShield Zones, which is based on an acquisition that we made of Blue Lane Technologies. This is an application-aware firewall that's built for virtualization. So let's see how it looks here. You take your virtual center server and install vShield, and it is a firewall technology that's based effectively underneath these virtual machines, and it lets you create security zones where the virtual machines are isolated or included independent of where they're actually running. And this is very important. In a world where we have the dynamic movement of virtual machines, we would like to make sure that the security of domains are always maintained. And the end goal here is a couplefold. In this world, even more virtual machines can run on this shared architecture because you know that you're able to separate them from a network standpoint from one another. This is certainly something people care about internally in their data centers. For instance, if you want to have DMZ applications sharing the same hardware as your internal-facing applications, it's extremely important as we move to the external cloud world, where a single provider might want to have Coke and Pepsi as two customers on their same infrastructure. So we're very excited about this. There'll be a lot more detail, and there's a great breakout session as well as demos that you can see tomorrow. But vShield Zones will be a great opportunity to bring even more security to a highly consolidated data center. Okay, so that was a real quick run through the platform part of vSphere, and everyone knows that a platform doesn't matter unless you can actually manage it. And this is really where we come into play with the vCenter suite, a collection of tools that really bring all of the functionality out of vSphere and make sure that you can take advantage of it. From a quick architecture standpoint, the way it works is that we have a vCenter server, and that talks to a large number of physical servers and controls a large number of virtual machines. It's within this that you carve up these clusters or create these giant computers, which are then shared. And from this, we have a couple of different ways to connect to it. You have thick and thin clients, something we call the VI client today, and all of our partners can programmatically attach to this system through a large number of SDKs and toolkits that we have. So this is the overall picture for how we do management of a large number of physical servers in your virtual data center. What I want to spend a little time on here, though, is the core foundation of Virtual Center, of vCenter, and spend a lot of time on this. We've been focusing quite a bit on it for 3 years now, because vCenter is an increasingly critical part of your enterprise as you're running all these things on it, and we need to protect it from all types of failure, make it scalable, and make it automated. We can do this by running vCenter server in a virtual machine, and many people do that. You can then take advantage of things like HA. But 60% of people would like to separate the management tool from where you're actually running your workloads. So 60% of people are running it physically, and we wanted to have a very strong answer for that. So first, on the availability side, we've just announced something that's called vCenter Server Heartbeat. And this delivers high availability and disaster recovery for vCenter Server and all of its components with deep application awareness, not just seeing that the hardware goes down. So in this case, you can see that we have monitoring, replication, and rollback available between an active node and a passive node that can be across the WAN or the LAN. And when you turn it on, you have a heartbeat that's going back and forth between the two systems. It's actually watching a large number of things, watching vCenter Server, but it's also watching all of its components. It's watching the database. It's watching our upgrade manager. It's actually watching the licensing server as well, so that if any of these things go awry, we can automatically cut over and start on the other side. Now, these both have the same IP address, and that means that your VI client can seamlessly stay connected and take on the new virtual center server that's running and make sure that you haven't lost any of your uptime there. We'll also have some interesting modules as we move forward for this. One will be around rollback of configurations. So if you happen to misconfigure vCenter Server and want to go back in time, you can do this through these technologies as well. So the overall goal here is to make sure that your vCenter Server is always available, as it's become a very critical part of your overall infrastructure. The next big area I want to touch on vCenter is scalability. And even as SAP talked about yesterday, they had more than 8,000 virtual machines. 80% of their new servers are going into VMware virtual machines. So we need to have tools that really scale to these new levels. And certainly as we go forward with our cloud agenda, the numbers will be staggering. So scalability is a huge focus, and vCenter needs to change to adapt to that. One of the most exciting things we're doing in this space is called vCenter Server Linked Mode. So the first thing, if you look at today's statistics, we say that a single vCenter can manage 2,000 virtual machines, and it can manage 200 physical hosts. The first thing we'll do in the vCenter suite is enlarge those numbers by 50%. So that'll be a great improvement in its own right, go up to 3,000 virtual machines, 300 hosts. But this doesn't get us to the level that we want to be. We'd like an administrator to be able to look at a large number of their virtual machines from one console. And that's what linked mode is about. From your VI client, we'll now be able to extend from having one vCenter server to be having 10 of them, all of which are feeding up to this single client. This is really a scale-out strategy for letting you manage a very large virtual data center or for your very large cloud. So we'll combine up to 10 of these vCenter servers in a single client. And the obvious next question is, I've now got all this stuff, thousands and thousands of virtual machines, how do I find it? And for that, we're adding a pretty advanced search capability. So this one, I'd like to give the first demonstration of the vCenter suite, and welcome to stage Bruce.